I'm Elle, Embers, and this is Cosmic Curiosities. Hey friend, and welcome back to Cosmic Curiosities, Cosmic Insights. Whether you are a regular listener or you're tuning in for the very first time, I am so excited that you're here. This is a space that we can dive deep into soulful insights, personal growth, and really all things energy healing and self-care. If you don't know me, hey, I'm Elle Embers, and I am so honored to be your Earthside spirit guide for this journey. If you do know me, it's been a little while since we last connected, so I have had to re-record this episode a few times because I'm stumbling my words or I'm forgetting things. So please have some patience and kindness for me today. But I have so much to catch you up on since we last spoke. So much has shifted in my life, and not just in a personal way, but also in my work as a healer and a soul therapist. And I truly believe in sharing my journey with you because it's part of what makes this so special. We have come together and we have grown together on this journey for the last few years. So I feel that I owe you a little update. So here is where I'm at. The first and the biggest milestone since we last spoke is I have become an international best-selling author. I know, right? It sounds absolutely crazy coming out of my mouth. This has been probably years in the making, and being able to hold the book in my hands, it's literally like a dream come true. And I am so incredibly grateful for everyone who's been a part of this journey and cheering me on and just believing in me and the work that I'm putting out into the world. This book, this chapter, it's not just a collection of words. It is a piece of my soul that I have poured into every page. And knowing that it is resonating with people all over the world and helping them on their journeys has just been the most humbling and rewarding experience I've ever had. And to celebrate, the amazing team at Chapters Bookstore, Cafe, and Bar is sponsoring an event that I am so incredibly amazed by. I cannot believe someone is holding an event for me. That is just insane. But this event is called An Evening with Elle Embers, and it's happening on Saturday, December 7th in Brisbane. Technically, it's Ipswich, but it is going to be the most incredible night. I have seen all of the plans and I am so excited. And it's going to be a night filled with just soul-stirring conversations, transformation, inspiration, connection, and just all of the feels. Like, I will probably cry the majority of the time. So if you are local and you want to come and join the magic with us, I would absolutely love to have you there and connect with you in a more personal setting. I will pop all of the details for this event in the show notes, but make sure you go and grab your ticket as soon as humanly possible because I know they are limited, and from what I hear, they are selling pretty fast. So if you want to join us, make sure you're there. But beyond the book, my healing journey has kind of come full circle. Recently, I've had another past life regression with my incredible nephew, Daniel. Mwah, I love you. You're amazing. And we dove deep into past lives. And this session was just filled with insights that reminded me just how interconnected our lives really are, across time and across space. It was truly fascinating for me to see how much these glimpses into the past really illuminated my present. And it was like peeling back the layers of my own story to find new truths and a renewed sense of purpose. And this experience has made me even more excited about the work that I do as a soul therapist. I know I've always been passionate about helping people understand themselves on a deeper level, but now I really want to take this work further. So you may or may not know, but I've studied bits and pieces of psychology and holistic counseling and sociology for quite a few years. But now I am currently studying for my doctorate in psychological science. Yeah, that's right. Your girl's going to be a doctor, and it's going to take some time, but it's going to happen. So it is an incredible adventure, but it's incredibly terrifying and incredibly exciting all at the same time. And I'm really diving into the science behind the human behavior, the brainwaves, the spiritual integration of it all. Like, my focus now is on bridging that gap between logic and spirituality, between science and the soul. Because with me growing up, this was something that was super personal to me, okay? Like, I grew up with psychic and mediumship abilities that I didn't want to accept because I was a really practical, logical person. And so I went through many different ways of trying to explain away my abilities and try to understand them and also repress them. And, you know, that's a whole different story. But I ended up going through a lot of different things to get to where I am now. And it has been incredibly close to my heart to want to help other people bridge that gap and understand that logic and spirituality do go hand in hand. And one thing that I'm noticing more and more in my practice, especially with conversations with clients who have had really spiritual experiences, either with me or with other practitioners, is that they often struggle with integrating those experiences into their daily life. Because it's one thing to have an insight and a transformative moment, but making it part of your day-to-day reality, that's where the real challenge lies, right? Is trying to understand it and interpret it and use it. But this is where I am shifting my focus to helping people embody those spiritual shifts in real and practical ways. Because to me, that's where real magic happens. It's when the mystical and the practical come together to create real and lasting change. But as amazing and as incredible and as, you know, high achieving as I really sound in all of this, let's get real for a second, okay? Because I know a lot of people tend to put me on a bit of a pedestal and think that I can do no wrong, and that everything magically works out for me, which, yes, in some cases it does, but that's because I believe that it does. But this year hasn't been all smooth sailing. Alongside these huge achievements, there have been moments of complete and utter heartbreak, especially in my relationships. And I've had to navigate some really difficult dynamics within my family. And while these experiences were really tough, they've taught me so much about boundaries and self-respect. To give you some context, which I know is a little bit off-brand for me because I don't normally go into a lot of personal detail, but I feel like this is very important for what I want to share with you today and today's topic. So, for years, I have really struggled with my relationship with my dad, and I kept inviting him into my inner world, wanting to build a stronger relationship with him because you may or may not know that I lost my mom as a child. So my dad is all I have left in terms of parents, right? I do have a very loving and supportive stepmother, but that relationship is quite different. So I've always wanted to really have a stronger and deeper connection with my dad. And I kept inviting him into my inner world, hoping that he could be the father that I've always needed. And each time I would invite him in, I would convince myself that maybe this time will be different. But each time, I just ended up feeling hurt and ultimately disappointed. And it was like he would walk into my metaphorical living room, just tracking mud all through my floor, breaking my shit, knocking shit off the counter, just putting his feet on the coffee table, and completely disregarding my boundaries and my needs. And after a lot of soul searching, a lot of trial and error, and yes, plenty of tears, I realized something important. I realized that my relationship with my dad is much healthier when I keep him at a distance. And for me, it meant keeping him on the metaphorical front porch. So no longer letting him come into my living room, but keeping him on the front porch, not shutting him out completely, but also not inviting him into the most sacred parts of my home that he could destroy. And once he was on my porch, things were okay for a while, but then he started trying to dig up my porch. And it was then that I decided that he no longer needed to have my address. And this was where I chose to disconnect and no longer engage. And this wasn't about being spiteful or bitter, but it was really about protecting my peace and honoring what I need to feel safe and respected. The realization of this wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And you know what? It's brought so much more clarity and peace, not just to my relationship with him, but to others in my life as well. I've realized where I have good relationships and where I've had relationships out of obligation. And even my husband has gone through some similar situations with his family and learning to set boundaries that respect his well-being. And so what I started to see was that this wasn't just impacting me and my relationships, but by asserting boundaries that respected me and my well-being, it was also encouraging people around me to do the same. So that's really what brings me to today's topic, and that is setting boundaries. And I know that setting boundaries doesn't sound very mystical, but when we really look at soul therapy and what I'm trying to do in my work is to make therapy more holistic, okay? There is soul therapy, which is above traditional talk therapy because we look at things holistically. We know that you are more than just your physical shell. We know that you are more than just your thoughts. We know that you have emotions and you have a spiritual essence as well as a soul. So it's kind of bringing all of those categories together. And I do different soul treatments like past life regression and channeling and theta and all the other things to help enhance your experience of a holistic life. But this is something that does apply to each one of those categories. You might think that boundaries are very logical, and they are, but they're also very personal. And with the holiday season coming up, so many of us will be navigating family dynamics. And let's be honest, a lot of emotional baggage tends to resurface at this time of year. The holidays can be a truly magical time, but they can also be a lot. So I really wanted to share this analogy with you that has completely transformed the way that I think about relationships and boundaries. Because when I talked about my dad before, I spoke about him coming into a metaphorical living room and then a metaphorical porch, and then metaphorically no longer giving him my address, right? And this comes down to this analogy. So I want you to imagine each of us is like a house. And you can picture your house however you like, whether you have a cozy little cabin in the woods, or a sleek, modern city apartment, or maybe your house is a little bit more like mine, where it's a big sprawling home with a big front porch. But this house represents you, your soul, your emotional space. And inside this house is the most sacred and intimate space, and that is your living room. This is your sanctuary. It is the place where you can fully relax and be yourself. It's filled with the things that bring you comfort and peace, and the things that make you think of home. Maybe that is your favorite spot on the couch. Maybe that is you having a familiar cuddly blanket and pillow curled up with loved ones, or the smell or the sound of a beautiful crackling fireplace, Or maybe it's just the laughs and the general cherished memories that you've had in that space. But now that you have the visualization of your house and your living room, I now want you to think about the people in your life as visitors to this house. And some people in your life, they don't even have to knock, right? You've given them a key. They can come over whenever they like because you trust them completely. They are the ones you don't mind letting into that inner space because they are the ones who love you unconditionally through every phase of life. They show up for you, they support you, they cheer for you, they respect your boundaries, and they add warmth and positivity to your life. These are the people who belong in your living room. But the thing is not everyone should have access to that sacred space. Some people are better off staying out on the front porch. And you can have a conversation with them through the door or at the door, or maybe you're someone that has a few chairs on the porch and you can go out the front and sit there, enjoy a cup of tea, watch the sunset, and at the end of the conversation, they can be on their way as you come back inside. And maybe this is because they have crossed your boundaries before. Maybe it's they've ignored your needs or they've brought negativity into your space. But keeping them on the front porch is a much healthier relationship for you. And I want to point out that not everyone on your porch is there because they've done something wrong. Sometimes people are just on our porch because that's the role that they play in our lives. So this could be acquaintances or coworkers or even family members who you just don't feel comfortable having a deeper connection with. And that's okay, because keeping them on the porch allows you to connect with them on your terms, without exposing them to your most vulnerable self, and without the possibility of them coming in and just trashing your living room. And then we also have the people who don't need your address at all. And maybe these are the types of people that you've had on the porch and they've destroyed the porch. Maybe these are people that have drained your energy or disrespected you in ways that you just can't repair. But whatever the situation is, it's okay to decide not to engage with them, especially if it's what you need to protect your well-being. So this analogy has really changed how I approach relationships, and I've realized that boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about deciding who gets access to the different parts of your emotional house. It's about protecting your peace and honoring the space that you've created for yourself. And while I know that asserting boundaries can be hard, because it's taken me years to do it with my dad, but it is worth it. It is something that benefits everyone involved. So if you are like me and you do struggle a little bit with the idea of maintaining or creating these boundaries, I have a few tips that I want to share with you. So the first tip is to visualize your boundaries. So before stepping into a gathering, whether it's friends or family, or any situation really where emotions might run high, take a few minutes to just visualize your boundaries. And this isn't just a mental exercise, but it's really a grounding practice that can prepare you emotionally and energetically for any conversations or dynamics to unfold. So start by imagining your emotional house, like we talked about. Picture your cabin, your apartment, your home, and visualize its layout, with your living room at the heart of the home, because that is your sanctuary. Now, I want you to think about the people in your life and where they belong in relation to your home. So who belongs in your living room? Who are the people that you trust deeply, who respect you, support you, and add value to your life? And they're just not in your living room because they get to be. They're there because they deserve to be. Then think about who should be on your front porch. Who are the people who have a history of crossing your boundaries, or whose presence feels just a little too intense, right? And keeping them on the porch isn't about shutting them out. It's just about ensuring that there's a healthy distance that respects both your peace and theirs. And then think about who doesn't need your address at all. And I know that this might sound harsh, but not everyone deserves a place in your emotional world. So think about the people who drain your energy or consistently bring negativity, or people that have really hurt you to a point where they've proven this is a pattern. It's okay to decide not to engage with them, especially if doing so protects your well-being. It's also okay to meet these people somewhere that isn't your sacred space, somewhere that isn't your emotional home. For example, you could meet them metaphorically at the corner store or at the cafe, and you can have a polite and civil conversation with them, but not invite them into your inner world, not invite them into your sacred space. So there is no possibility of them crossing any boundaries or creating any problems. And this visualization can really act as a roadmap for navigating those interactions, because when you mentally assign people to their places, it helps you approach each conversation or each moment with more clarity. And you're less likely to feel blindsided, and you can make decisions that align with your emotional safety without a feeling of needing to do something that you don't feel aligned with out of obligation. So the next tip is about giving yourself permission to keep some distance. And this tip is all about letting go of the guilt and the obligation and embracing the truth that distance can be an act of love, not just for yourself, but for other people as well. We often feel an unspoken obligation to be close with friends and family, especially around holiday seasons and this time of year. Even if the relationship doesn't feel healthy and supportive, we still push ourselves because of a sense of guilt or a sense of obligation. But proximity shouldn't be automatic. It should be earned. So have a think about who you are keeping around and who you are keeping a relationship with out of obligation, and whether that is serving you and whether it's serving them. Because for me, I know I don't engage with my dad any longer and he no longer has my address, but when I initially put him out on my metaphorical porch, it allowed me to maintain a connection that felt safer and more sustainable. Now, although that was very short term and it didn't work out the way that I was hoping, it's something that we've seen with my husband's family as well, because we haven't shut them out. And it's not about wanting to shut them out. It's about acknowledging what we need to feel safe and emotionally balanced. And distance with them can help us let go of the expectation of what we feel that our family should be, and instead appreciate the relationships for what they are. So if there is someone in your life who feels overwhelming or even triggering, consider what a bit of distance might look like. It doesn't mean that you stop caring about them, because I still care about my dad, and we still deeply, deeply love my husband's family. But it just means that you're choosing to love them from a place that doesn't compromise your own well-being. So some practical ways to create some distance is to limit the duration or frequency of interactions. So for example, if you have family members that come to your house or you go to theirs, you can limit the time that you spend there. Say you only go for half an hour or an hour instead of the whole day. You can also limit the frequency. So instead of going every week, go once a fortnight, once a month, and see how that feels for you. Another option is communicating through text or email instead of phone calls or in-person meetings. Sometimes this can help if you have struggled with asserting your boundaries and you feel that they're not listening or you're not being heard. When you do put something in writing, it is something that they can no longer avoid. And the other option, of course, is choosing a neutral or public settings for your interactions instead of inviting them into your physical home or your personal space. And remember, distance doesn't have to be forever. It can just be a tool that you use when it's needed, and you can always reassess as the relationships evolve. So the next tip is to communicate your boundaries calmly and confidently. Because when it comes to setting boundaries, how you say something can often be more important than what you actually say. Staying calm and respectful is key. Communication is really key in maintaining relationships, but it's also a key while asserting your needs. Because let's be real, setting boundaries, especially with family, it just isn't easy. And sometimes when you have been conditioned or in a pattern of trying to people please, it is very jarring for you to all of a sudden start asserting boundaries. And it can often leave the other people questioning what they've done wrong. So, some examples of staying calm and supporting and asserting boundaries is saying statements like, I'd rather keep this conversation light. Like, this is great when someone is veering into a topic that feels too personal or too triggering. Saying something like, I'm not comfortable with that. It's more direct and to the point without being confrontational. Another thing you could say, I just need a bit of space, or I need to step away for a moment. And use this when your emotions are rising and you kind of need a breather. And sometimes you can just say, let's agree to disagree on this. And it's perfect for shutting down a heated debate that doesn't serve anyone. So when communicating boundaries, it's also really important to remember that you don't owe anyone a detailed explanation. A simple, this is what I need to feel comfortable, is enough. If someone pushes back, stand firm, repeat your boundary if necessary, but resist the urge to over-explain or justify your decisions, because you don't owe them. Finally, remember that setting boundaries isn't about controlling someone else's behavior. It's about controlling your own responses. If someone continues to push you, you can always choose to disengage. It's not giving up. It's just protecting your peace. The next tip is about prioritizing the relationships that bring you joy. So one of the best ways to protect your peace during the holidays or any time of year is to lean into the relationships that truly nourish you. And these are the people who belong in your living room. The ones who lift you up and make you feel seen and heard and bring out the best in you. Take a moment to think about these relationships. Who are the people who make you laugh until your cheeks hurt? Who are the ones that you can call at 2 a.m. when life feels overwhelming? These are the people who deserve your time and energy, especially during the holidays. And prioritizing these relationships might look like, making intentional plans to spend quality time with them, whether that's a coffee date or a cozy night in, or even just a heartfelt phone call. Another way is letting them know how much you value them. A simple, I'm so grateful for you can literally mean the world. And saying no to obligations that pull you away from these connections is also okay. It's okay to turn down invitations or traditions that don't align with your priorities any longer. For me, this tip has been a game changer. By focusing on the people who bring joy and peace into my life, I've been able to create different holiday memories that feel more authentic and meaningful to me. Instead of trying to please everyone, I've learned to invest my energy where it truly matters. And let me tell you, it's made all the difference. So the reason that I've chosen to share this analogy with you today isn't to air my family's dirty laundry. The reason I've shared this analogy and these personal stories with you is because I know that I'm not the only one that moved through the Christmas season, the holiday season in stress and overwhelm. And I know I wasn't the only person maintaining relationships out of a sense of obligation. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about creating a safe space for what truly matters. Your peace, your joy, and your well-being. So as you move through this holiday season, I encourage you to reflect on these tips and use them as tools to navigate your relationships with clarity and grace. Because whatever you are not changing, you are choosing. And it's not something that you have to do. So consider this your permission slip. And remember that you do deserve to protect your peace and prioritize what lights you up. You've got this. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I really, really appreciate having your support on this journey and sharing these updates with you, and also feeling safe enough to share this analogy and this story that has helped me so much and I hope that it helps you as well. Remember that boundaries are gifts that we give ourselves as you navigate the season. And until next time, I'm wishing you a holiday or a weekend or whatever it is that you are facing at current with warmth, with love, and with empowered boundaries. This is your Earthside Spirit Guide signing off. Thanks for joining me for today's Cosmic Insight. If you're ready to unleash the magic of your soul and want to work with me, you can send me a message on Instagram at elle.embers or visit my website, elleembers.com.